The winning blueprint presents.
Draft Zone.
Welcome. You're in the draft zone. I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. This is the NFL draft game. Here with the Miami Dolphins, who are drafting at 12 in this year's NFL draft. And so, what the draft game does is take a look back at prior draft history of a specific pick, in this case, the 12th overall selection, and a specific team, in this case, the Miami Dolphins, who will be making that 12th selection in the 2013 draft. We want to take a look back at the specific pick number 12 in the draft since 2000. We want to do the same with the draft history for the Miami Dolphins in that span as well. So a 13-year span from 2000 to 2012. Want to look at the first round selections of the Miami Dolphins. Want to look at the number 12 overall pick. Grade each and every single pick made in that time frame from both the Dolphins and the number 12 pick. Average them up, come up with an aggregate score, and use that to see if we can project what the Dolphins might do or what they are supposed to do at the number 12 pick. It's always fun to look back, and you cannot use the past as a measuring stick for the future. However, the past does give you some sort of indication on what this pick usually yields. And so it does have some bearing, but again, the past does not predict the future. So we'll see what the Dolphins will do at this pick, but let's talk about the number 12 overall pick and who has been selected at this pick in the first round over the last 13 seasons. In order to do that, I'll be looking off of this spreadsheet that I put together of every single first round selection made since 2000, and we'll look at this list to help us grade out the players using our baseball grading scale: single, double, triple, home run, and the occasional strikeout. So without any further ado, let's get to the 12th overall selection. We start at the year 2000, and the first pick is Sean Ellis, Jets defensive tackle / defensive end. Had a solid career with the Jets. When you're solid, it's a double. Sean Ellis had a very productive and long career in the league, and hence he is a double. You look at 2001, the 12th overall selection, Damone Lewis, defensive tackle for the St. Louis Rams. Look, Damone Lewis was solid. He was an okay tackle. I won't say solid, because when you're solid, you're a double. He was okay. Nothing flashy, nothing special. A lunch pail, hard hat type of guy. Damone Lewis was a single. You look at 2002. 12th overall selection goes to the Arizona Cardinals. They select Wendell Bryant, defensive tackle. This was a failed experiment by the Arizona Cardinals. They had no idea what they were getting into when they drafted Wendell Bryant. Had some off-the-field issues. It wasn't consistent on the field. It yielded a strikeout for the Arizona Cardinals. Wendell Bryant didn't last long in this league. He is a strikeout for the Arizona Cardinals in 2002. You look at 2003, Jimmy Kennedy, defensive tackle for the St. Louis Rams. So the Rams go back to the well once again, draft another defensive tackle, this time Jimmy Kennedy. He lasted quite a while in the National Football League. But again, much like his counterpart, Damone Lewis, never really made a huge impact while in the league. Where he was just a guy that you could count on to play football, but never really a dominant force. Jimmy Kennedy, a single in the National Football League. You look at 2004, 12th overall selection goes to the New York Jets. They select linebacker Jonathan Vilma out of the University of Miami. So here's a very instinctive and smart linebacker. Not the fastest guy, but athletic enough to make all kinds of plays on the football field. I think he's been a really solid linebacker throughout his career. I think he'll be most notably remembered for the whole Bounty Gate scandal, however. It doesn't matter. On the field, Jonathan Vilma is a double. Simple as that. Solid linebacker. Has been for the duration of his career. Jonathan Vilma, a double in his league. You look at 2005, 12th overall selection. Goes to the San Diego Chargers, who then select Sean Merriman. And tell you what, here's a guy that came out of the box swinging, and it looked like this was going to be a home run early on. I mean, he came out of Maryland ready to wreak havoc on the National Football League. This guy burst onto the scene, lights out, and it was lights out for opposing QBs for a while there, but then the injuries started to mount. He was never the same after about his third or fourth season in the league, and it's a shame because this guy had Hall of Famer written all over him, but it's a cautionary tale of how injuries can really end your career in the National Football League. All the potential and talent in the world. Home run talent. Sean Merriman, only a double in the National Football League. You look at 2006, 12th overall selection. Haloti Ngata, defensive tackle out of Oregon, to the Baltimore Ravens. This is, without a doubt, smashing home run. Haloti Ngata has been a dominant force ever since he set foot in the National Football League. This guy is an immovable force in the middle of the Baltimore Ravens defense. When healthy, there is no defensive tackle in the league better at stopping the run. And so he can also get pressure on the quarterback. There's not one thing on the field Haloti Ngata can't do. And he is so athletic for his size. He's light on his feet. Has a few interceptions under his belt as well. Haloti Ngata is the complete package. Hence, he is a home run for the Baltimore Ravens in 2006. You look at 2007, 12th overall selection. Marshawn Lynch, running back out of Cal to the Buffalo Bills. Solid pick by the Bills. Marshawn Lynch had some really productive seasons in Buffalo, but at the end of the day, both sides weren't seeing eye to eye. Marshawn wanted out. Bills were done with him and his off-the-field transgressions. He moves on to Seattle, where his career blossoms and really takes off. We all remember the Beastquake game play in the playoffs against the New Orleans Saints. His career has went into a different stratosphere since then. But I still need to see more from Marshawn Lynch. He's probably a triple. He probably should be a triple right now. I said he's one more 1,000-yard season away from a triple. Right now, I have him at a solid double because of the inconsistencies in the middle of his career. You got 2,000-yard seasons to start his career, then 3 straight 9,000-yard rushing seasons, then another 2,000-yard rushing seasons at the end so far. I don't like that dip in production. I don't like inconsistencies. And so I have to dock him for that. He's a double right now. Probably should be a triple. We'll see what he does in 2013. But right now, Marshawn Lynch is a double. You look at 2008, 12th overall selection, Ryan Clady, offensive tackle out of Boise State, drafted by the Denver Broncos. Pick well spent here by the Denver Broncos. He's been a whale of a left tackle to this point. Has some injury concerns and issues in the league, but nothing that has derailed him from being a very quality tackle in this league. Right now, he is the protector of Peyton Manning and that left side. Ryan Clady is a triple in this league. He's been a really good offensive lineman. You need quality left tackles. He is one of them. Triple for Ryan Clady. You look at 2009, 12th overall selection. A very disappointing one for the Denver Broncos. Knowshon Moreno, running back out of the University of Georgia. He was highly touted coming out of college. Watched him in college, was never really impressed with his game. I thought that he was a little slow. And everyone talked about the toughness, and you cannot deny the toughness when talking about Knowshon Moreno's, but injuries, inconsistency again, and I just think he's very slow. And there's something to be said about a guy that is just not fast. In the National Football League, everyone isn't fast. But Knowshon Moreno in college was supposed to be fast. And he wasn't to me. And it seemed like I was the only one not seeing the speed. He gets to the National Football League, and it seems like he's running with a refrigerator on his back at all times. And the injuries have really set him back. When he starts to gain momentum, he gets injured. And these aren't little ticky-tack injuries. These aren't turf toes or a pulled hamstring. We're talking about tearing ACLs, and he just hasn't been able to stay healthy for long periods of time in the National Football League. He is a single right now. Knowshon Moreno is a tough running back, but to me, he does not possess all of the qualities necessary to be anything other than a single. You look at 2010, the 12th overall selection goes to the San Diego Chargers, and they use it on Ryan Matthews, running back out of Fresno State. And you're thinking to yourself, this guy has it all. I watched the tape on him, and I was enamored with his ability to stop on a dime and cut. He ran the 40 in a good time. I watched the tape. He looked fast and explosive. He had everything you wanted in a running back, could catch the football out of the backfield. I just thought this guy was going to be an absolute steal, a home run for the San Diego Chargers. They were moving on from LT. What better way to replace him than have a guy come in and can do it all just like LT could in his prime? But Ryan Matthews has been anything but a consistent replacement for LT in San Diego, whether it's injuries, inconsistent play, fumbling the football, you name it, Ryan Matthews has done it in San Diego. And so he can't be anything else but a single at this time. San Diego Chargers fans are probably fed up with Ryan Matthews to this point, and he has to go out and prove himself. This is his contract season. If he does not come out and perform at a high level and stay healthy, Ryan Matthews will no longer be a San Diego Charger. He is a single to this point. You look at 2011, 12th overall selection, Christian Ponder, drafted by the Minnesota Vikings out of Florida State. Here was a situation where the Vikings absolutely reached on a quarterback that had no business going not only in the top 15, but possibly in the first round. I don't think that Christian Ponder was a first-round talent when he came out of college. I don't think he was a first-round talent. So if I'm telling you that, he's definitely not a top 15 talent, as the Minnesota Vikings made him the 12th overall selection. Thought they reached on Christian Ponder, put a lot of pressure on him to be the guy in Minnesota. Have not surrounded him with the best targets to throw the football to, but that does not matter at the end of the day. Christian Ponder has been extremely inconsistent at the quarterback position. When he's on, he's a very solid quarterback. But too often he is not on, making costly mistakes, missing open receivers, and just not being a competent starting quarterback in this league. Christian Ponder right now is a single. Jury's still out on him. I think the Vikings feel really good about him if he can just have some targets. They went out and got some guys to help him in the offseason. We'll see what he does with those targets. And if he can just play consistent football for a whole season. They think they have their guy. Let's see if he can do that in 2013. But right now, Christian Ponder is a single. You look at 2012, 12th overall selection. Fletcher Cox, defensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Philadelphia Eagles go out and get their guy Fletcher Cox at 12. Solid pick. Had 5 to 5.5 sacks in his rookie campaign. Solid start to his career. I like where this is going for Fletcher Cox. It's a double for Fletcher Cox right now. I think this guy can be a dominant force on the defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles. Be interesting to see what Chip Kelly and that defensive-minded group have in store for Fletcher Cox as they make the switch from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4. Fletcher Cox is a double at this time. And that's your selections at 12 for the last 13 years in the draft. It's a mixed bag. A lot of singles in this group. Not a lot of home runs. Only one home run in this group. That's Haloti Ngata. So not a lot of big name, big home run type of acquisitions to your team in the draft at 12. You tally these numbers up for all of these players, you end up with a single. And so 12 is not a hot spot of sorts in the draft. Let's see what the Miami Dolphins have done in this same period. Can they come out better than the single that the 12 spot yielded with the players selected in that 13-year time frame? So you start in the year 2000 with the Miami Dolphins, and they don't have a first-round selection. They traded it to the Carolina Panthers. So you move on to 2001, where they drafted the cornerback Jamar Fletcher. And look, Jamar Fletcher was okay. Not what they thought they were getting when they drafted him. He was okay at best. Jamar Fletcher is a single in the National Football League. Look at 2002 and 2003, no first-round selection. As you recall, that was the Ricky Williams trade. Traded away your first-round selections in 2002 and 2003 for the services of Ricky Williams. So no first-round selections in those years. You go to 2004. Vernon Carey, tackle out of the U. Solid tackle for the Miami Dolphins. Just never was the guy they thought they were getting when they drafted him, however, though. He was okay. But when you make a pick of a player in the first round, you're not looking for okay. You're looking for good, borderline great. And they did not receive that from Vernon Carey. They just got a solid player who wasn't going to exceed any expectations. So Vernon Carey is a single. You look at 2005. This was probably a very disappointing pick for the Dolphins as well. Ronnie Brown. He was part of that two-headed monster rushing attack at Auburn when drafted by the Miami Dolphins. They thought they were getting a home run threat, a guy that could take it the distance every single time he touched the football. And Ronnie Brown had his moments in Miami, but here's a guy that never rushed for over 1,000 yards in his career, never was a true difference maker. Thus, Ronnie Brown is simply a single. You look at 2006, the Miami Dolphins selected Jason Allen, the cornerback out of Tennessee. And I wasn't in love with the pick when they made it. I thought that Jason Allen was solid in college, but I was never really enamored with his skill set in college. He gets to the National Football League, and it's much of the same. I think the Dolphins fell in love with his height in combination with the athleticism that he displayed, but I was never really moved by Jason Allen. And when he got to the National Football League, receivers weren't really moved by Jason Allen as they proceeded to make moves all over him, catch the football. He did not work out in Miami. He moved on to several other stops. He's still in the league right now, but again, Jason Allen isn't the guy you want out there starting for you at the cornerback position. Jason Allen simply a single in this league. You look at 2007, Ted Ginn Jr. Dolphins fans probably a little perturbed by this pick. You get Ted Ginn Jr. Here's a guy that was dominant at Ohio State. Again, I feel like he took advantage of having speed in a very slow conference. The Big Ten is not known for the most athleticism in the world. Ted Ginn Jr. to me is a straight line speed guy. It's not going to go east and west and laterally very well, but if you have him run straight, there's not many going to catch Ted Ginn Jr. in a foot race. Thought he used that to his best ability, to his advantage in college. Catch a slant, run by slow-footed defenders. Catch a kickoff or a punt, run by slow-footed defenders. He worked it to his advantage. It got him a first-round selection in the draft, but he was never, to me, that receiver that you look for in the first round at Ohio State. I thought he was more of a return man than a receiver. I thought he was a return man that could play receiver instead of a receiver that could give you added value in the return game. And so I thought the Dolphins reached for Ted Ginn Jr., even though the talent said that that was a solid pick at the time. I was never sold. It turned out to be a very solid pick, but not what the Dolphins thought they were getting at that pick in the first round. Ted Ginn Jr. has never really materialized in the National Football League at receiver. He's been much of a specialist throughout his career, and that's his niche in the league now. And for the Dolphins, that's very disappointing because you drafted Ted Ginn Jr. with the hopes that he could explode as a receiver and give you that added value in the returns game. But it was vice versa, as he was much better in the returns game than at receiver. Ted Ginn Jr., a single in this league. You look at 2008. Finally, the Dolphins get off of the single train and land themselves a triple in the form of Jake Long, offensive tackle out of Michigan. This was long overdue. The Dolphins needed to do something other than a single. They finally find themselves a left tackle that can protect their franchise QB, which they didn't have at the time. We're still looking for, but it doesn't matter if you don't have a franchise QB in place. You need the left tackle to protect whoever you have as your signal caller. Jake Long stepped right in and was that guy. He started off his career with a bang, kind of was slowed by injuries toward the end of his stay in Miami. He ultimately ended up leaving in free agency. He is now a St. Louis Ram. I think that Jake Long is a triple in this league. I think he has been a really good tackle. A lot of people have questions as to how good he really is, especially after his last 2 seasons in Miami. I still think that Jake Long is a really good left tackle. We will see how he plays in St. Louis, but I think that Jake Long is a triple in this league. You look at 2009, Vontae Davis, cornerback out of Illinois. Solid pick by the Dolphins. He was supposed to pair up with Sean Smith, their other corner that they had drafted out of Utah. They were supposed to make a tandem that was supposed to rival the success that Patrick Surtain and Sam Madison had for the Dolphins in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it just never materialized. Vontae Davis was good at times, but inconsistent. Sean Smith was still trying to find himself as a corner. It never happened the way the Dolphins envisioned. They got fed up with Vontae Davis because of the lack of consistency, traded him away to Indianapolis. He's no longer a Dolphin. I think he's a very solid corner in this league, and when you're solid, you're a double, and that's what I think Vontae Davis is at this point. You look at 2010, Jared Odrick, defensive tackle / defensive end out of Penn State. Solid pickup by the Miami Dolphins. When he's on, he's a really good defensive tackle. Very underrated. It's the consistency sometimes that I have an issue with Oderick, but make no mistake about it. He's a really solid football player. I like what he brings to the table, his toughness. He's very athletic for his size. He's a double in this league is Jared Oderick out of Penn State. You look at 2011, Mike Pouncey, center out of the University of Florida. Really good pick by the Miami Dolphins. They were trying to fortify this line when they drafted Pouncey. They already had Jake Long. They were looking to start to get all the pieces assembled on this offensive line so that when they finally did find that quarterback, he would be well protected. What better way to do that than to get a guy at the center position that's a rock like Mike Pouncey? This is one of the best centers in this league, and he didn't waste any time cementing himself as one of the best centers in this league. He came in right away and took off running with that position, and he's been just as solid as you can be at the center position. Mike Pouncey is a triple in this league. You look at 2012, we talked about getting the guys in place to protect the quarterback whenever the Dolphins finally decided to do that. Well, they decided to do that in 2012, getting Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback out of Texas A&M. Solid pick. The Dolphins think they have their man, and he played really well in stretches. There were stretches where he was awful. There were stretches where he did not turn the football over. He just absolutely refused to turn the football over. That's what you want out of your quarterback. Tannehill had his moments in 2012 in his rookie campaign. Needs to be more consistent, but that comes with experience. I think the Dolphins have their man. They think they found their man. And so I think Ryan Tannehill to this point is a double. He has the potential to raise his stock. Let's see what 2013 holds for him as they have loaded Ryan Tannehill with options to get the football to in free agency. And they may not be done. They may target more guys in the draft. He's got everything he could want now out at the skill positions. Now he has to get it done, does Ryan Tannehill. But right now, he is a double. So that's it for the Dolphins. You look at their first round selections over the last 13 seasons. You tally them up, and it averages out to a single. All the picks lost in trades, all the singles, what did you expect it to average out to when every guy is a single? There are no strikeouts here, which is always a relief. But sometimes you got to swing for the fences. Too many singles and doubles here, not enough home runs. In fact, there aren't any home runs on this list. That's a problem if you're a Dolphins fan. Have to draft better. Have to get guys that are going to remain on your roster with your franchise. You look at this list, and not a lot of guys still remain on this team. You've got players that were drafted 6, 7, 8 years ago, no longer on this roster. And you should be looking to draft guys that are in it for the long haul. And I don't think the Dolphins have done that. You look at this list. Ronnie Brown, no longer a Dolphin. Jason Allen, no longer a Dolphin. Ted Ginn Jr., no longer a Dolphin. Jake Long, no longer a Dolphin. Vontae Davis, no longer a Dolphin. You see where I'm going with this. These are all guys that are still right around the prime of their careers, should still be in Miami if they were any good. I don't think the Dolphins wanted any of these guys back, maybe with the exception of Jake Long. And so you chalk that up to drafting and the lack of success the Dolphins have had in the draft. They have to be better. The pick at 12 says it's supposed to be a single. The Dolphins draft history says it's supposed to be a single. That spells bad news for the Dolphins. This pick can't be a single at 12 this year. You've built so much momentum over the offseason with all the free agent acquisitions you've made. You can't go into the draft and get a single. You got to try to at least hit a double here at 12. I'm thinking that the Dolphins aren't even going to pick at 12. I think they're going to move one of their picks, swap it out with the Cleveland Browns at 6, go up and get a tackle because you lose Jake Long in free agency, You need a tackle to replace him. You have Jonathan Martin right now, but I don't think you're sold on him as a left tackle. I think you like Martin on the right side, and so you're going to try and get a left tackle out of this draft early on and get it out of the way, get one of the elite tackles out of this draft. And so we'll see if the Dolphins are able to do that. But if you can't get your hands on a tackle and you don't trade up and you have to stand pat and stay at 12, if you're the Dolphins, you take the next best thing. And for the Dolphins, I think that's either a defensive end or a cornerback. It needs to be one of those two things at 12 if you have to select. Don't go reaching for a tackle like a DJ Fluker at 12. That's not where the value is with that pick. Either defensive end or cornerback. You lose Sean Smith in free agency. You will need to replace him some way, somehow. You can address that through the draft in the first round, or you can use later picks to do so. The Dolphins have 5 picks within the first 88 picks in the draft, and so you can take your time with this. You have multiple picks to get it done. At 12, you should be looking for a player that can come in and get it done right away. And even if you have to platoon him in, say it's a defensive end, and you're not ready for him to go right away, that's perfectly fine. Allow him to come in pass rushing situations, work him into the mix, and see what you can and see what you've got. But by no means do you reach at 12 for something that's not there. Take what's there. Take the value. If you have to pick at 12, get the corner or the defensive end. If you can, go up. Get the offensive lineman, get the tackle, and fortify your offensive line and protect Ryan Tannehill. This pick can't be a single, even though history in the draft game says it's supposed to be. This can't be anything less than a double for the Dolphins. And if they stay true to their board, get a defensive end, a cornerback, or move up and get a tackle, it will be at least a double. And that's going to do it for the Miami Dolphins in the draft game.